Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday evening, July 16th, 2023. I hope everyone is safe and doing as well as possible. I'm hanging in there. I'm kind of wrung out. We've had hot weather here in Reno. We had 108 today, 106 yesterday, and this intense heat is supposed to go through tomorrow, Monday evening, until around 8. So, and then in the 90s next week, and back up in the hundreds after Wednesday. So I know a lot of people have heat things going on around the planet. Anyway, I'd like to welcome everyone to the show tonight. This will be my weekly update that I'll be putting on YouTube, where we'll look at methane and sea ice from whatever data we can get. So we're starting with Climate Reanalyzer. Here are the maximum temperatures around the planet today. And you can see the greens over the Arctic region. All of that is above freezing. And see the reds up in northern Canada and also in northern Siberia there. And then here in the US, see all these whites all the way up through California, Nevada, all the Southwest and Texas and so on, down into Mexico and Belize. The whites are 40 degrees C or higher, or about 104 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. Here's some whites in South America. We have lots of whites across northern Africa. Here's some in Congo. And here's Saudi Arabia, Middle East, and so on, over into India. Also seeing whites. This is in Western China. And I think parts of Mongolia, it looks like. Here's 2-meter temperature anomaly for today. And so we've got browns up here in Siberia, browns from Russia down through Europe into Africa. Greenland has browns on the interior and further south. And then blues in Alaska and in the middle part of Canada coming down, then browns on either side. And you can see this dark brown up here in this archipelago region, and that's 10 to 14 C higher than normal. And then a big wide band of browns coming along Canada and the western US. See, we're in the dark browns. Reno is there, and so on. I know other areas have had, a lot hotter than what Reno had, but anyway, we're all suffering right now. Here's the global view, or the flat view. And I'll try and sound coherent as much as possible. Like I said, I'm kind of wrung out. Brown all the way through Africa. Yeah, here's Mongolia and China Australia, you're in the browns. And in the Antarctic, it's got some brownish reds. This has gone down. It had been a lot higher earlier this week. Here's our overview worldwide. We're up 0.74 C, higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.86 C. The Arctic is up 0.71 C. The Antarctic is up 1.05 C. Southern hemisphere is up 0.63 C. And the tropics are up 0.87 C. So all the regions are up, some higher than others, but all of them are up there. Here's precipitation and clouds. The green is rain, blue is snow, and here at Greenland we've got rain on the southwest edge and snow on the interior and on the west side. And this snow, if it's wet snow like it has been, it'll cause melting of the sea ice, of the ice sheet. And let's see what else. We've got some rain, patches of rain here over the Beaufort Sea and here over the Arctic Basin. Then here's some snow in the North Kara Sea. Here's the flat view. And here's what used to be the jet stream. I'm calling it jet pieces. You can see all these, see how loopy it is up here around the Arctic, and then looping further south as well. And broken up in the southern hemisphere too. Here's the Pacific view. Look at this, like a ribbon up high, and here's a lower one. And here's one right around the equator coming across Africa. We'll look at sea ice and snow cover in a minute. This is sea surface temperature anomaly for yesterday, and up here in the Arctic, wherever the ice has already melted, you can see the browns and reds coming in as the water is heating up. And the highest reading on this chart is this light pink, which is 6C higher than normal. And we've got reds and pinks in the Kara Sea, browns along this Russia coastline, brown and red next to Norway. Here in the Baltic Sea, it's kind of brownish red. We've got blues around this ice edge, blues and purples, and also next to the coast of Greenland. This is from ice melt and from the ice sheet runoff of what's been melting and running off into the ocean there. It's cold water coming down. Then right around that, we've got reds, browns, and here we've got this hot spot heating up. Well, I guess we can call this an evil eye in the North Atlantic, off the coast of Newfoundland. It's kind of spreading out, but it's into see the pink there, reds and pinks, so 5 and 6C higher than normal. This is also the area where we see the methane, problem methane bubbling up. Here's the Atlantic view, it's all brown, and Mediterranean is almost all solid brown and then moving into reddish brown on the west side. Here's the Pacific view. We have an evil eye here in the northeast Pacific and another one on the northwest Pacific, so twin blobs there. We've got red and brown in the Sea of O coast, and we've got reds, we've got pinks even off the coast of Japan, and then reds and browns spreading out west from South America as El Nino is coming in full force. Now we'll look at methane data. We're starting with the NOAA methane data for yesterday, the 15th. Met-Op-B satellite in the morning, 1,000 millibar level. The mean was 1846 parts per billion, and you can see pinks. It's the highest. That's the range down here between 2000 and whatever's the highest reading, 2034. So it's kind of a small range here at surface level. But here in western Russia, we've also got some pinks up here next to the Canadian archipelago. In the afternoon, the mean was 1845. On the Met-Op-C in the morning, the mean was 1843. The high reading was 2016. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1843. High reading was 2025. And then moving to the 487 millibar level, Met-Op-B satellite in the morning. The mean was 1925. It's almost all pinks. The height reading was 2401. In the afternoon, the mean was 1925. The high reading was 2383. And on the Met-Op-C in the morning, the mean was 1890, and this looks more realistic, where you've got pinks over the northern hemisphere and patches over the southern hemisphere, around the Antarctic, and then lower readings around the mid-latitudes, reds and oranges. The high reading was 2186. And in the afternoon, the mean was 1890. The high reading was 2234. We're seeing pinks even down here around the Antarctic region. So here's our chart for just the Met-Op-C satellite for the 487 millibar level, and the 15th averaged out to be 1890.0, showing a slight decrease this week of 0.5. So right there, just went down a tiny bit. Here's what happened this week. So we ended last week at 1890.5 on the 8th. Then the 9th went down 2.0. The 10th went down 1.5. The 11th went up 1.0. The 12th, no change. 13th up 2.0. 14th up 1.0. And 15th down 1.0. So we were so the highest, we were 1891 on the 14th. So it was going up most of the week. And then the chart for 487 with all 4 satellite readings, or Met-Op B and C. Okay, that averaged out to be 1907.5, which was a slight increase of 0.5 this week, right here on that chart. And for 1000 millibar, we ended at 1844.25, so no change this week. Where you see this drastic drop down and up, this was when there was so much gray area in the northern hemisphere on the Met-Op B satellite that these were not accurate readings. And the same for 487 millibar. So there's that. Now we'll go to CAMS, Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services Methane Forecast. And our base time and valid time are both for Saturday, July 15th. And we're starting on the Arctic area and surface level. So the data is for Saturday, and the forecast period is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So we've got Komsomolets billowing. That's back in action. The Scandinavian area over to Russia, so that's filling up. It's also spilling over the coastline here. The interior of Russia is coming back to life, mainly in the forecast period. See that? There's fires. The majority of fires in Russia are over here in eastern and southeastern Siberia. Here's our problem spot off the coast of Newfoundland. That's percolating there. And here's Alaska, the interior Now remember, we saw Alaska in the blue, so it's going to fluctuate depending on the heat, how hot it is. Here in Western Canada, this is where the majority of the fires are, and this is the tar sands region, and I'm assuming this area is on fire, and it'll be hard for them to ever put that out. In fact, it could even just smolder during the winter time, like Russia and its zombie fires, because the tar sands, they'll just keep burning. That's got peat and oil and tar. I mean, that's why it's called tar sands. It'll be really hard to, like I said, for that to go out. And then high readings here around the Hudson Bay, and then here in the U.S., here's North Dakota, here's the upper central U.S. See, now it's not as blobby as it has been. I know that doesn't sound real scientific, but we can tell that, well, for instance, look how much lower it is in Texas. I'm thinking it's because they haven't had any rain along the coast in a while. So the highest readings are up higher and across. California, you're pretty blobby. Now we'll go to the North Pole view. Here we've got England and the UK filled up, Germany, you're getting filled up, Persian Gulf, India. See, it's still a lot lower in the southern part of the country. China, you're filling back up. See this high reading. This is coming off the eastern seaboard of the U.S. So there's that. Now I wanted to show, I forgot to load this up, but what am I doing? Wanted to show the Antarctic view. See all this around the coastlines. Now this is at the higher, this is 1860 parts per billion. This darker shade of blue is 1840. That's the majority for the background color, but this 1860 is creeping in further and further south. But what I'm trying to show is it's coming up around the coastline, here along the Brunt Ice Shelf, and then here you can see it along the northeast coast, down here on this southern edge next to the Ross Sea, this western peninsula also. It's coming up. So we don't need to run it. I just wanted to show that. Now we'll go to the global view. Australia, you're really filling up this whole east side, and also here at Perth on the southwest edge. We're getting higher readings across the interior of Africa. See, that's heating up. And about the same here in South America. So there's that. And now 500 HPA. So we got a little break up here in the Arctic, and then dark on East Siberia, and from China to Japan and over through India, and some heavy here over Canada and the US, and the reds are coming further south, see, all the way to the bottom of Australia, and yellow tinges are coming in further south. And now we'll look at total column. And so from Japan over to China, broadband across China and southern Asia, covering all of northern India and all of the Persian Gulf and spilling over. Okay, now we've got some more data from CAMS that I like to go over. This is sulfur dioxide from today. We've got new high readings. This one up in the North Pacific, this started yesterday before they had a 7.2 earthquake just north of there at Sands Point, Aleutian Islands. Here it is at 500 HPA. Here's the Pacific view, so you can envision the ring of fire here. This off the coast of Mexico, that's from the volcanoes. So here, see in the northern Pacific, see that. Some of that might be new, but some of it is left over from yesterday. And then this new high reading in the South Pacific, this started yesterday. I'm thinking plate movement. And then here, South America, that's volcano related. And here, Southwest Australia, I don't know what that's from, frankly. Here it is at 500 HPA, so that's where it zoomed up in the atmosphere. And what if it's earthquake related or volcano related? You'll see it zip up there. See, and kind of hanging around. Here's the ozone hole over the Antarctic today. We've been seeing danger zone holes over the Weddell Sea, also over this eastern side of the interior and over the Western Peninsula some. But those have closed up, and so we've got aqua as our lowest reading. It's still quite thin. Here's the Arctic ozone. See the greenish tinge, that's thinning, and then the green, like chartreuse. It's popping up in the Arctic region here. Also on the western side of the U.S. And here's the global view, and we're seeing an aqua patch right around the equator here in the Indian Ocean. And then greens around the mid-latitudes. Here's the smoke. This is from CAMS. This was a North Pole view. So, this is from the fires, and see the smoke swooping down, pretty far down in the U.S., and then back up and reaching to Greenland. Also, we have smoke on this side reaching to the Beaufort Sea and the Canadian archipelago. So, a big wide band of the heaviest smoke coming way down in the U.S. And then here in Russia, this has been growing every day this week. I've been showing this. And so this is southern Russia right here, coming up wide band all the way up the coastline and Siberia, and heavy smoke here over this East Siberian Sea. Okay, earthquakes. I took quite a few pictures today. There were 258 worldwide. Here's an Arctic earthquake, a 4.6 near Greenland on the tectonic plate line there. This is Alaska, Aleutian Islands, 7.2 Sand Point, Alaska. This came in last night just before midnight, 11:48 p.m. Pacific time. Here's the Cocos Plate. We've got a 4.4 just on this west edge. And then this is a 5.1 in Mexico, and then a 4.2 further down. Up here, this is Baja, the Baja Peninsula, and this red line is the Imperial Fault line. It becomes the San Andreas Fault line in the U.S. So we've got 9 earthquakes in this picture. The largest was this 4.6 on the red line in the Gulf of California. So they're divided between here on the land and here in the ocean. But 9 there. And Mena, Nevada is coming back to life. There's 37 in this picture. And the largest was a 4.0 at Mena. This is not far from Reno. It's up in the mountains southeast of Reno. This is Virginia City, Nevada. We've got a cluster of 18. I don't know if we call that a swarm. Definitely a cluster of 18. They're pretty small, but it's still showing movement, and 2.8 was the largest there. That's all of those. Oh, this is the wrong one here. I've got to change that. Okay, now I'll take a short break and come back and we'll look at sea ice. Don't go away. Okay, I'm back, and now we'll move into the sea ice portion of the show, and we're going to start with the slideshow. These are images from Climate Reanalyzer that I downloaded this week. This is starting with today. This is sea ice concentration and snow cover, and here in the Arctic we can see this Beaufort Sea is collapsing, and let's see the darker areas, that's where it's melting and coming apart, and we've got a big long line coming all the way across to the North Pole where it's coming apart. This Russia coastline is opening up. Well, it looks like it's open all around to Taimyr Peninsula, and this Laptev Sea is open, and we've got some holes in this East Siberian Sea. Then we've got melting further down as you move towards the North Pole, and the extent is creeping back on this east side as well. Baffin Bay, what ice is there is very wispy. These tributaries are opening up pretty fast. Hudson Bay is open. So let's see what it did this week. Here we were last Sunday on the 9th, and you can see there's a lot more ice last Sunday than today. So we'll click through. Here was Sunday. Big change on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now this model showed that a hole opened up here just above Canada on Wednesday. I didn't see a big hole like that on NASA Worldview. Now these can open up and close back up pretty quickly depending on the ice drift. And then here on Thursday you can see that closed up. Friday, big change. Saturday, and big change here on Sunday. So lots of ice melting there. And then the U.S. Navy, it seems like the only areas they're updating are the Beaufort Sea and the Ross Sea. They haven't updated the Arctic or the Antarctic, and I don't know what's going on, but it is what it is. So here we are. This is for the 14th for Friday. So this is the latest data. This is Beaufort sea ice thickness. And this white, this is all open water around the Alaska and Canada coastlines. And see the light lavender, and so it's melted way down. There's a little hole opening up here, and still have some aqua areas here in the Beaufort Sea on the 14th. Here's the forecast, and the forecast goes out, so the data goes back 3 weeks, and the forecast goes out to the 21st, or this upcoming Friday. So that's a lot of change in 30 days to go from aquas down to open water, which is really what this is. By the time you get down to that light lavender, here we are at the end of the model. By the time you get down to this light lavender down here, it's less than half a meter thick. It's like a quarter of a meter thick or less. And there's a lot of open water, and the ice is kind of slushy and not good ice. So you can see it's thinned out all the way across there. And this thickest ice is moving down, exiting through these tributaries. And then here's the Ross Sea. This is for yesterday, the 15th. This is sea ice thickness. Ross Ice Shelf is right down here. So here's the Ross Sea, and it's thickening as it goes out. And here's the 30-day animation, and this goes out to the 22nd. So we do see it thickening up, although it pulls away from the coastline, and it's showing open water right around the coast. And we've seen this before. I don't know why this is. So there's that. Here's National Snow and Ice Data Center. Arctic sea ice concentration. This is for yesterday, the 15th. And wherever you see the these dark blue, that's almost all melted out. So you've got a lot of open water and just not good concentration. The only areas that have whites left are right here above Canada, and a little bit on this east side. And the rest is in some state of melt. And even look at over the North Pole, we've got blues. And here's the extent for the melting. The blue line is this year, dotted line is 2012, and we can see in the last couple of days it's angling down a little bit more, so still just about 2012. Here's the Antarctic, still open on this western side of the West Peninsula. Here's the refreeze chart. And we're running kind of parallel with last year, but we're still well below last year. Here's the Greenland melt. Now what we've seen is continuous melting on large areas of Greenland, and mainly on this southern side and on the western side, and a lot on the northern side. So here's the melt for the 15th. Here are the cumulative melt days, and where you see any color, it means that it's melted at least one day. Even, see this dot on the interior, see it's even melted there. But the white, those are the only areas where it's not melted at least one day this year. And it's cumulative, like the name says. And we've got greens, moving into greens on this west side. So that's like 40 days of melt. And here's the extent chart. And for today, it's dropped down. So this line is 30% melt. So it's about at 32% melt right now. Still well above the median, and normally it peaks out around mid-July and then starts going down or freezing, or melting less. Now what we've seen here since the end of June through this week, so a couple of weeks, we've had 3 days where we were right at 50% melt. Here was one day at like 40% melt. And then the day before, so on the 13th, was about 35% melt. So it's in high melt, obviously. That's all of those. Now we'll move on to NASA Worldview. And I want to start out by showing they put a notice up on this nighttime layer, and it says the nighttime imagery or day-night band enhanced near constant contrast layer is no longer being produced. We are currently investigating alternative sources, but do not have an estimated date for the resumption of the imagery layer. We apologize for the inconvenience. Similar imagery layers are available in Worldview, including, and then they've got links to a couple of the layers, but they don't look anything like this. So that's disappointing, because especially when it's dark, like in the Antarctic, we could use that nighttime layer and really see what was going on. And the last few times I showed that in the Antarctic, It was clear as day. I mean, you could see everything going on. So now that's gone away. So, oh, that's the wrong one. Here's sea ice concentration. You can see all these areas of high melt. Let's go. We'll turn on the blue marble layer. And so we don't have any clouds distracting us or anything. So here's where we're at today. And we can see this Beaufort Sea is collapsing, especially where it's coming up from Alaska. A lot of melt in these tributaries. Almost nothing left in the Baffin Bay. What did I do? I meant to turn that layer off. Here we go. Hudson Bay is open, and this east side of Greenland is melting way down. Here's the hole, and here's the North Pole. See the red? So it's melting at the North Pole. There's very little white here on this model. It's almost all in at least some shade of pink, denoting melting. Here's a hole opened up just north of the North Pole, and some other areas too. And here's the Laptev Sea. This is open up closer to the coastline there. Here's the East Siberian Sea. It's open around the coastline, and this is collapsing fast. And a big hole here next to New Siberian Islands. And this in the North Kara Sea is in high melt as well. So if you like, we can go back to last Sunday. Here we were last Sunday. And let's see what happened this week. So this was Sunday. Here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, big change there, Friday, Saturday, here we are today. So this area right down here above Canada and moving out the Beaufort Sea, this is some of the thicker ice where it had been in the Aqua Range on the Navy website, which was 2 to 2.5 meters thick. So that's coming down. And now let's look at the satellite view here. And here's smoke. You can see the smoke coming up here. And also smoke. See the smoke coming up through Russia. And it's moved out over the ice there. So let's start down here with Greenland. Here in the Lincoln Sea. Now we've got some clouds here. Here it was yesterday. And you can see the state of the ice is broken up. And then here's the nearest strait. You can see the ice moving down through here, breaking up down here. And here's where it's emptying out into the Baffin Bay. And this whole northern area is open. And see, in these tributaries, see, this ice is melting out. And so today we're seeing snow here at Greenland. Here's this east edge. Very little ice. Just wispy ice. And here we can see the ice melt on the Greenland ice sheet. See all these blues, these are melt ponds where the ice is melted on top, and so there's water formed into these ponds or even lakes on the ice. And when the ice starts melting, it takes on darker colors and even like a dark gray to a black color. Okay, let's move on. Here's Svalbard. Here's this east edge. Here's Franz Josef Land. Here's Novaya Zemlya, it's open. There's Yamal Peninsula. See, this Gulf of Ob is all open now. This is the Kara Sea. Here's the North Kara Sea. So this is melting out pretty fast now. Here's Severnaya Zemlya. Here's the Vovolov ice cap with the ice racing into the ocean here. Here's Komsomolets, and it's right around this area where we're seeing methane billowing up on CAMS. Here it was on the 14th. See this open water. And then coming on up here in the Laptev Sea. See, here it's open. Here's Taimyr Peninsula. And you can see the state the ice is in. It's coming apart pretty fast here, it looks like. This Laptev Sea down here, this is pretty much open. hard to see because the clouds, but here's yesterday. Just little wispy ice there, not much at all. And so here's New Siberian Islands. You see it's really coming apart here. And East Siberian Sea. See, look at this. This is in high melt and high collapse, it looks like. Here's today. Here's the smoke. See. See, this coastline is open. Then here's the ice right out here. And then here's the Baffin Bay. Bering Strait. And Chukchi Sea, this is pretty much open. See. It's open down here. Here's Alaska. So, see, there's open water there. Got a lot of clouds. It makes it hard to see. So, what we can make out through the clouds, see, is just very minimal ice, and we've got pieces, and then looks like mush in between the pieces. A lot of open water. See, you can see it here. Same thing. This is open, and then here's the sea ice. See. So that's in state of collapse. See. These tributaries are open. And let's look at some more of this Beaufort Sea. So you can see a lot of open water in between. Here's another hole opening up. And then coming on down, here's the Canadian coastline. So it's hard to see, but it is breaking up, and there's a lot of open water here around the coastline, which is kind of unusual. Here we are moving further east. See how this is broken up right at the coast, and you can see open water. And then all around, same thing. And then here's Ellesmere Island. We're back to where we started from. Now let's look at some of this interior. Okay, here's 80° north latitude, and we're seeing that blue-green, and see it's coming apart here all the way across. And here's the north edge, and here's this 80° north latitude line. And so this is in high melt here and in a state of collapse. And then further south, even inside this 80° north latitude. Look at the melting here and here. And the North Pole is right down here, so not too far from the North Pole. We can see the open water there. And that's about all we can see here. Okay, now I wanted to just pop down to the Antarctic. We can't see it because it's dark. The nighttime layer is gone away. But we can make out the sea ice here. Sea ice concentration layer. We've got melting going on this west side. Also down here on the southeast. So I thought we'd just go through this for this week. Here we were last Sunday. Here's Monday, Tuesday. Wait, that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So the refreeze is just not doing very well at all. So that's all I had to show on that. Already took pictures of the ones I wanted to show, except for this one came in a little earlier. It was a 6.6 on land in Argentina near Loncopue, Argentina. This came in at 8:05 p.m. Pacific time, 171 kilometers deep. So let's see what earthquakes did this week. Here's 7 days all magnitude. 2,183 is what we're seeing. And we had some more Arctic earthquakes here in the Laptev Sea. Here was one just off the coast of New Siberian Islands, 5.2. This was on the 13th. And then a 4.0 east of Severnaya Zemlya, right on the red line there. So, I don't think we saw any 6s until the Alaska and then Argentina. So these are mainly, well, these are all 5s and 4s. And here in the lower 48, we had one on the west side of the Juan de Fuca plate of 4.6 on the 14th. Here's one at the base of 2.9, and then you see this activity just to the right of there. This is because of pressure from this Juan de Fuca plate, and so we've got, this is, I call this area the fulcrum point. So quite a bit of activity here, and oh yeah, there was a 6 here in the Atlantic, a 6.6 near Codrington, Antigua and Barbuda. This was on the 10th. So that's all for my report for tonight. And then to bring it back to a spiritual perspective, we're continuing to read out of the book of Job. Job chapter 40. Moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, Shall he that contendeth with the Almighty instruct him? He that reproveth God, let him answer it. Then Job answered the Lord and said, Behold, I am vile. What shall I answer thee? I will lay mine hand upon my mouth. Once have I spoken, but I will not answer. Yea, twice, but I will proceed no further. Then answered the Lord unto Job out of the whirlwind, and said, Give up thy loins now like a man. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. Wilt thou also disannul my judgment? Wilt thou condemn me, that thou mayest be righteous? Hast thou an arm like God? Or canst thou thunder with a voice like him? Deck thyself now with majesty and excellency, and array thyself with gold and beauty. Cast abroad the rage of thy wrath, and behold every one that is proud, and abuse him. Look on every one that is proud, and bring him low, and tread down the wicked in their place, hide them in the dust together, and bind their faces in secret. Then will I also confess unto thee that thine own right hand can save thee. Behold now Behemoth, which I made with thee, he eateth grass as an ox. Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar, the sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass, his bones are like bars of iron. He is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him. Surely the mountains bring him forth food, where all the beasts of the field play. He lieth under the shady trees, in the covert of the reed and fens. The shady trees cover him with their shadow. The willows of the brook compass him about. Behold, he drinketh up a river, and hasteth not. He trusteth that he can draw Jordan into his mouth. He taketh it with his eyes. His nose pierceth through snares. Job chapter 40. So I hope everyone has a good week, as good as possible, and that you're safe and, stay away from the heat, stay away from the fires as much as you can. So, Lord willing, I'll be back here next Sunday to give another update to you all. So until next time, God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.